Hello, dear students. Welcome to the last story in the first flight book, which is The Proposal, which is written by Anton Chekhov. So, Anton Chekhov is a very famous Russian writer, and let's look into the story in depth. So, this is a one act play, and let's look at where it is taking place. So it is taking place in a drawing room in Chebukov's house, and Lamov enters wearing a dress jacket and white gloves, and Chubukov rises to meet him. So a young gentleman called Lamov is wearing a dress jacket, so he's well dressed, and he has come to meet Chubukov. So let's see why he has come to meet him. So Chubukov says, "My dear friend, who do I see? Ivan Vasilievich. I'm extremely glad." And he squeezes his hand. "Now, this is a surprise, my darling. How are you?" So he's very warm, and he warmly greets Lomov, whose name is Ivan Vasilievich, and he's also surprised to see him here. So Lomov says, "Thank you, and how may you be getting on?" So they are very courteous. So Chubukov says, "We just get along somehow, my angel. Thanks to your prayers and so on. Sit down, please do. Now you know you shouldn't forget all about your neighbors, my darling." So Chubukov and Lamov are neighbors. So he says you should not forget about your neighbors. "My dear fellow, why are you so formal in your get-up? Evening dress, gloves, and so on. Can you be going anywhere, my treasure?" So he is enquiring about why he is so well dressed and if he was going somewhere. Lamov says, "No, I've come only to see you, honored Stepan Stepanovich." So Chubukov says, "Then why are you in evening dress, my precious? As if you are paying a New Year's Eve visit. So why are you so dressed like as if you have come on New Year's Eve? Eve means the previous day of New Year, which is the 31st. Why are you dressed up like it is the 31st of December?" So Lomov says, "Well, you see, it's like this," and he takes his arm. "I have come to you, honored Stepan Stepanovich, to trouble you with a request. Not once or twice have I already had the privilege of applying to you for help, and you have always, so to speak. I must ask your pardon. I'm getting excited. I shall drink some water, honored Stepan Stepanovich." So Lamov says that not once but twice you have already helped me, and now I have come for another favor. But if you see here, he's saying that he's getting excited and he wanted to drink water. So here, his nervousness is quite apparent. Apparent means evident, and he drinks the water. So Chubukov says, aside means to himself, "He comes to borrow money, shan't give him any." So in his mind, he's saying, looks like he wants to borrow some money from me and I'm not going to spare any money. But aloud, he says, "What is it, my beauty?" So Lamov says, "You see, honored Stepanich, I beg pardon, Stepan Honorich, I mean." So he is making blunders. He is mispronouncing his name because he is very excited. "I mean, I'm awfully excited, as you will please notice. In short, you alone can help me. Though I don't deserve it, of course, and haven't any right to count on your assistance." He's saying, "I don't deserve it, but I really want to ask you something, and only you can help me with that." So Chubukov says, "Oh, don't go round and round, darling. Spit it out well." Chubukov is saying, "Don't beat around the bush." So, what does it mean by don't beat around the bush? Means बातें गोल गोल मत फिराओ, डायरेक्टली बोलो कि क्या है. So Lomov says, "One moment, this very minute. The fact is, I have come to ask the hand of your daughter, Natalia Stepanovna. In fact is, I have come to ask the hand of your daughter, Natalia Stepanovna, in marriage." So finally he reveals that he has come there well dressed to ask the hand of his daughter to get married to her. So Chubukov joyfully he says, "By Jove, Ivan Vasilovich, say it again. I didn't hear it at all." So, by Jove is an exclamation which is used in the archaic times, in the old times to show surprise. So, archaic times means old times. So, it's an expression. Lomov says, "I have the honor to ask," and Chubukov interrupting says, "My dear fellow, I'm so glad," and so on. "Yes, indeed," and all that sort of thing. And he embraces that, he gives him a hug and kisses Lomov. "I've been hoping for it for a long time. It's been my continual desire." So, here, if you see, Chubukov has become very emotional. And he says, "Yes, it was my desire from a long time." And he sheds a tear. "I've always loved you, my angel, as if you were my own son." So, first, when he thought that he wanted money, he said, "I'm not going to give him any money." But when he came to know that a rich boy has come for matrimonial ties, he is gladly ready to accept him. May God give you both his help and his love, and so on. And so much hope. What am I behaving in this idiotic way for? I'm off my balance with joy. Absolutely off my balance. Oh, with all my soul, I'll go and call Natasha and all that. So he's very excited. He says, "Why am I acting like this? Okay, let me go and call my daughter." So Lomov is greatly moved by the reaction of Chibukov. And he says, "Honored Stepan Stepanovich, do you think I may count on her consent? So do you think she's going to agree?" So Chubukov says, "Why, of course, my darling. And if she won't consent and if she doesn't agree, she's in love. Egad, she's like a lovesick cat and so on. Shan't be long." So, egad means he's giving an affirmation. He's saying that his daughter is a very lovesick cat and saying that even if she won't give her consent, she will immediately fall in love with you and it won't be long until she agrees to marry you. And he exits. So Lamom says, "It's cold. I'm trembling all over, just as if I've got an examination before me." So he's feeling anxious. That's why he's trembling all over and he's feeling the adrenaline rush because Natasha will be coming. The great thing is, I must have my mind made up. If I give myself time to think, to hesitate, to talk a lot, to look for an ideal of a real love, then I'll never get married. So he's saying that if he gives himself a lot of time to ponder over it, about who to marry, if he hesitates, means if he's reluctant, if he talks a lot, or if he waits and searches for an ideal match of a real love, then he will never get married. So here a question could come. Under what circumstances does he think that he will not get married? So this is the answer. Brr, it's cold. Natalia Stepanovna is an excellent housekeeper. So she takes care of the house really well. Not bad looking. So she's not really beautiful, but she's presentable and well educated. What more do I want? So he's trying to convince himself, saying she is the best match. But I'm getting a noise in my ear from excitement, and he drinks. And it's impossible for me not to marry. In the first place, I'm already 35 years old, a critical age, so to speak. In the second place, I ought to lead a quiet and regular life. Now he's giving reasons of why he should get married. First is because of her traits. Second, he's saying he's already 35 years old, which is a critical age. Second is he should lead a quiet and regular life because he suffers from palpitations. I'm excited and always getting awfully upset. At this very moment, my lips are trembling and there's a twitch in my right eyebrow. But the very worst of all is the way I sleep. So he also has problems when he sleeps, and also problems when he gets excited. I no sooner get into bed and begin to go off when suddenly something in my left side gives a pull. I can feel it in my shoulder and in my head. I jump up like a lunatic. So, lunatic is a crazy person. Walk about a bit and lie down again. But as soon as I begin to get off to sleep there, another pull. And this may happen 20 times. So he's talking about his problems. So that is why he feels he should get married quickly, have a very quiet and regular life without any excitement or without any palpitations. And also he has problem in sleep. And Natalia Stepanovna comes in. Natalia says, "Well, there it's you." And Papa said, "Go, there's a merchant come for his goods." "How do you do, Ivan Vasilovich?" So she has come and she's asking him how he is. So Lomov is saying, "How do you do, honored Natalia Stepanovna?" So Natalia says, "You must excuse me for my apron and negligee." So negligee is a lightly dressed gown because she did not expect him to come. So she was wearing a apron and a lightly dressed gown. "We are shelling peas for drying. Why haven't you been here for such a long time? Sit down." And they sit. "Would you have some lunch?" So she asks him some questions. And Lamov says, "No, thank you. I've had some already." So Natalia says, "Then smoke. Here are the matches. The weather is splendid now. But yesterday it was so wet that the workmen didn't do anything at all." So she is having some talk about different matters. "How much hay have you stacked?" "Just think, I felt greedy and had a whole field cut, and now I'm not at all pleased about it because I'm afraid my hay might rot." Rot means decompose. So she's saying that yesterday the weather, it was raining all day and the workers didn't do any work, and she was greedy and she had the whole field cut of the grass, and she could not dry it because it was raining, and now she feels that the hay will decompose. "I ought to have waited a bit." So she's saying, "I must have waited a bit, but I was too greedy." "But what's this? Why are you in evening dress?" "Well, I never. Are you going to a ball or what?" So she's asking, "Why are you so well dressed? Are you going for a dance? Though I must say you look better. Tell me, why are you got up like that?" So Lomov says, excited, "You see, honored Natalia Stepanovna, the fact is I have made up my mind to ask you to hear me out. Of course, you'll be surprised and perhaps even angry. But," again he says to himself, "it's awfully cold." So again he's getting a little hesitant, a little shy, and also he's nervous. Why? To ask her hand in marriage. So Natalia says, "What's the matter?" "Well," so Lomov says, "I shall try to be brief. You must know, honored Natalia Stepanovna, that I have long since my childhood, in fact, had the privilege of knowing your family. My late aunt and her husband." So late means the aunt has passed away. "And her husband, from whom, as you know, I inherited my land, always had the greatest respect for your father and your late mother." So her mother has passed away. "The Lamovs and the Chebukovs have always had the most friendly, and I might almost say the most affectionate regard for each other. And as you know, my land is a near neighbor of yours. You will remember that my oxen meadows touch your birch woods." So Lomov is saying that both their families had a very cordial relationship with each other from very many years. And he's saying that they are also neighbors because his oxen meadows touch their birch woods. Natalia says, excuse my interrupting you. You say my oxen meadows, but are they yours? So she's interrupting and saying, why do you say it is yours? So Lamov says, yes, mine. So Natalia says, what are you talking about? Oxen meadows are ours, not yours. So now there is a dispute of who owns oxen meadows. Lamov says, no, mine, honored Natalia Stepanovna. So Natalia says, well, I never knew that before. How do you make that out? So Lamov says, how? I'm speaking of those oxen meadows which are wedged in between your birch woods and the burnt marsh. So wedged means they are in between. So he says, I'm talking about that land which is in between your birch woods and that burnt marsh land. So Natalia says, yes, they are ours. So Lomov says, no, you're mistaken, honored Natalia Stepanovna. They are mine. So Natalia says, just think, Ivan Vasilovich, how long have they been yours? So Lomov thinks, how long? As long as I can remember. So Natalia says, really? You won't get me to believe that. So both the arguments, they are not giving up saying that it is not their land and they're arguing that it is theirs. So Lamov gives a long explanation. But you can see from the documents, honored Natalia Stepanovna, oxen meadows, it's true, were once the subject of dispute. But now everybody knows that they are mine. So it was a subject of dispute of who owns it. But now everybody knows the truth that it is mine. There's nothing to argue about because you see, my aunt's grandmother gave the free use of these meadows in perpetuity to the peasants. So, perpetuity means as a bond or security, but without any maturity date. To the peasants of your father's grandfather, in return for which they were to make bricks for her. So, they said they can use the land without any maturity date as a bond or security, but they had to make bricks for his aunt's grandmother. The peasants belonged to your father's grandfather. They had the free use of the meadows for 40 years. So they used the land for free for 40 years and had got into the habit of regarding them as their own when it happened that. So he's saying because they used it for 40 years, they started believing that it is their own land. So Natalia says, no, it isn't all like that. Both grandfather and great grandfather reckoned that their land extended to burnt marsh, which means that oxen meadows were ours. I don't see what there is to argue about. It's simply silly. So she's saying, no, there's nothing to argue because both my grandfather and my great grandfather told me that their land that they own went up to the burnt marshes. So it includes the oxen meadows as well. So it is ours. So Lomov says, I will show you the documents, Natalia Stepanovna. So he's saying, I will show you proof that it is ours. So Natalia says, no, you're simply joking or making fun of me because this can't be true. What a surprise. You've had the land for nearly 300 years. He's saying, not 40 years. We had the land for 300 years. And then we're suddenly told that it isn't ours. Ivan Vasilovich, I can hardly believe my own ears. He's saying, it is impossible. I can't even believe what I'm hearing. These meadows aren't worth much to me. So she's saying, it doesn't mean that I'm fighting for money. They only come to 5 desiatins. So desiatins means it is a former Russian unit of land area which comes up to 2.7 acres and are worth perhaps 300 rubles. But I can't stand unfairness. So she's saying not that it's worth much, but I can't tolerate injustice. Say what you will. I can't stand unfairness. She's also very firm that that land belongs to her. So Lamov says, hear me out. I implore you. So implore means I begging desperately or earnestly. The peasants of your father's grandfather, as I have already had the honor of explaining to you, used to bake bricks for my aunt's grandmother. Now my aunt's grandmother wishing to make them a pleasant, and now he is going on, Natalia stops him and she says, I can't make head or tail of all of this about aunts and grandfathers and grandmothers. Someone says, I can't make head or tail of something, means they can't understand something at all. The meadows are all, that's all. So she's not ready to listen to any explanation. Then Lamov says, mine. So he is also not ready to back out. And Natalia says, ours. You can go on proving it for 2 days on end. You can go on and put on 15 dress jackets. But I tell you, they are ours, ours, ours. I don't want anything of yours and I don't want to give anything of mine. So there. So she's just not ready to hear him out. So Lomov says, Natalia Stepanovna, I don't want the meadows, but I am acting on principle because he believes that just to prove his point that he is the rightful owner. If you just, I make you a present of them. So if you want, I can just give it to you as a present. But I just, on the basis of principles, I'm arguing with you. So Natalia says, I can make you a present of them myself because they are mine. Your behavior, Ivan Vasilovich, is strange, to say the least. Up to this, we have always thought of you as a good neighbor. So up until today, we thought you were a good neighbor and a friend. Last year, we went to lend you our threshing machine. So she's saying last year, we let you borrow our threshing machine, which is used to use in their farm. Although on that account, we had to put off our own threshing until November. But you behaved to us as if we were gypsies. Giving me my own land, indeed. No, really. That's not at all neighborly. In my opinion, it's even impudent if you want to know. So, Natalia is saying that we have done so much sacrifice for you by lending our threshing machine to you and we put it back until November. But we thought you were a good person until now. So Lomov says, that you make out that I am a land grabber. So he's saying, you think I am grabbing your land? Madam, never in my life have I grabbed anybody else's land, and I shall not allow anybody to accuse me of having done so. Quickly he steps into the carafe and drinks more water. So he takes open jug and he drinks water. Oxen meadows are mine. So Natalia says, it's not true, they are ours. And Lamov says, mine. See, they're going back and forth without any conclusion. None of them wants to back out and they want to say that it is theirs. Natalia says, it's not true. I'll prove it. I'll send my movers out to the meadows this very day. Lamov says, what? Natalia says, my movers will be there this very day. Movers means who will move the grass, that is, remove the grass. So Lamov says, I will give it to them in the neck. So I will give back the answer. Natalia says, you dare. And Lamov that time clutches his heart. Oxen meadows are mine. You understand? Mine. So he started having palpitations because he has got excited or extremely upset. Natalia says, please don't shout. You can shout yourself hoarse in your own house. She's saying you can scream until you have a sore throat. in your own house, but not here. But here I must ask you to restrain yourself. So I'm going to ask you to control yourself. So Lamov says, if it wasn't, madam, for this awful, excruciating palpitation, if my whole inside wasn't upset, I'll talk to you in a different way. And he yells, saying, Oxen meadows are mine. So Natalia says ours. Lamov says mine. Natalia says ours. Lamov says mine. And while they are having this very furious altercation, so altercation is a verbal dispute between two people. Verbally they are shouting at each other, is called an altercation. That is when Chubukov comes. So Chubukov says, what's the matter? What are you shouting for? So Natalia says, Papa, please tell this gentleman who owns Oxen Meadows, we or he. So Chubukov says to Lomov, darling, the meadows are ours. So he even says that they own the meadow. Lomov says, but please, Stepan Stepanovich, how can they be yours? Do be a reasonable man. My aunt's grandmother gave the meadows for the temporary and free use of your grandfather's peasants. The peasants used the land for 40 years and got accustomed to it as if it was their own. When it happened that, so again he is explaining the same reason to Chubukov. Chubukov says, excuse me, my precious, you forgot just this, that the peasants didn't pay your grandmother and all that because the meadows were in dispute and so on. So he is saying that the peasants did not pay the grandmother not because you people owned the land, but because the land was itself in a dispute of who owned it. And now everybody knows that they are ours. It means that you haven't seen the plan. So Lomov says, I'll prove to you that they are mine. So Chubukov says, you won't prove it, my darling. So Lomov saying, I shall prove it to you. So Chubukov says, dear one, why yell like that? You won't prove anything just by yelling. I don't want anything of yours and don't intend to give up what I have. Why should I give? And you know, my beloved, that if you propose to go on arguing about it, I might sooner give up the meadow to the peasants than to you. So he's saying, Chubukov is saying that he himself is the rightful owner and he is not ready to compromise. And he's saying that if you keep arguing like this, I will rather give the meadows to the peasants, the poor peasants, than I give it to you. So Lomov says, I don't understand. How have you the right to give away somebody else's property because that land is mine? So Chubukov says, you may take it that I know whether I have the right or not. Because, young man, I'm not used to being spoken to in that tone or voice and so on. So he's saying that I am an aged person and you cannot talk to me like that. So he is demanding respect. I am twice your age and ask you to speak to me without agitating yourself and all that. So talk to me without getting angry or furious or without distressing yourself. Lamov says, no, you just think I am a fool and want to have me on. You call my land yours and then you want me to talk to you calmly and politely. Good neighbors don't behave like that, Stepan Stepanovich. You are not a neighbor, you are a grabber. So now Lomov is accusing him of being a land grabber. So Chubukov says, what's that? What did you say? So Natalia says, Papa, send the mowers out to the meadows at once. No, please, you have to send the mowers to remove the grass from that land. So Chubukov says, what did you say, sir? Natalia says, oxen meadows are ours and I shan't give them up. Shan't give them up, shan't give them up. So she's very, very adamant. So she's saying, I will not give them up no matter what. Lamov says, we'll see. I have the matter taken to court and then I will show you. So Lamov is saying now, let's have a legal dispute in court and try to solve it in the court. Chubukov says, to court? You can take it to court and all that. You can. I know you. You are just on the lookout for a chance to go to court and all that. You petty fogger. So, petty fogger is actually an inferior legal practitioner that deals with all petty cases, not big cases. All your people were like that, all of them. So, he's accusing his entire family to being like that. Lamov says, never mind about my people. The Lamovs have all been honorable people, and not one has ever been tried for embellishment like your grandfather. So, embellishment is theft or stealing. So Chubukov says, you Lamovs have had lunacy in your family, all of you. So lunacy means insanity, craziness. Natalia says, all. So Chubukov says, your grandfather was a drunkard and your younger aunt, Nastasia Mihailovna, ran away with an architect and so on. So Lomov says, and your mother was humpbacked, clutching at his heart. Something pulling in my side, my head, help, water. So finally, his palpitations has affected him greatly. Chubukov says, your father was a guzzling gambler. So guzzling means greedy. Natalia says, and there haven't been many backbiters to equal your aunt. So he's calling his aunt a backbiter, means who जो पीछे से वार करती है. So Chubukov says, my left foot has gone to sleep. You are an intriguer. Oh, my heart. So intriguer is a person who devises plots to harm others. Oh, my heart, and it's an open secret that before the last election you means he went to say bribed. I can see stars. Where's my hat? So he's about to faint. So Natalia says it's low, it's dishonest, it's mean. So she's still ignoring what is happening. Chubukov says, and you are just a malicious, double-faced intriguer. Yes. So Lomov says, here's my hat. My heart, which way? Where is the door? Oh, I think I'm dying. My foot's quite numb. So I think here there is a printing error. It's not Chubukov who's feeling this, but it is Lomov who's feeling that. So Lomov says, here's my hat. My heart, which way? Where's the door? Oh, I think I'm dying. My foot is quite numb. And he goes to the door. So Chubukov says, and don't set foot in my house again, ever again. So don't come back here. Natalia says, take it to court, we'll see. And Lomov is staggering out. He's finding it difficult to walk. So Chubukov says, devil, take him. And he walks about in excitement. Natalia says, what a rascal. What trust can one have in one's neighbors after that? And Chubukov says, the villain, the scarecrow. Natalia says, the monster. So they are abusing him. First he takes our land and then he has the impudence to abuse us. So Chubukov says, and that blind hen, yes, the turnip ghost had the confounded cheek to make a proposal. So he's saying that after abusing us for so much, he had the audacity to make a proposal. So he's saying confounded cheek means he had the amazing boldness to make a proposal and so on. What, a proposal? Natalia says, what proposal? So Chubukov says, why? He came here to propose to you. Natalia says, to propose to me? Why didn't you tell me so before? So Chubukov says, so he dressed up in an evening clothes, the stuffed sausage, the wizen-faced from. So wizened means which has wrinkles. So Chubukov is still angry, but Natalia seems to be softening up. Natalia says to propose to me, and falls into an easy chair and she starts crying and wails. Bring him back, bring him here. Chubukov says, bring whom here? So Natalia says, quick, I'm ill, fetch him. And she's in hysterics. So Chubukov says, what's that? What's the matter with you? and clutches at his head. Oh, unhappy man that I am. I'll shoot myself. I'll hang myself. We are done for here. He's saying the same man who we abused so much are asking him to come back into this house. Natalia says, I'm dying. Fetch him. So Chibukov says, Poof, at once, don't yell. And he runs out. Natalia says, what have they done to me? Fetch him back. Fetch him. And Chibukov runs. Chubukov says he's coming and so on. Devil, take him. Oof, talk to him yourself. I don't want to. He's saying that I'm not going to talk to him. You talk to him. And Natalia wails and she says, bring him, bring him. Chubukov says, yells, saying, he's coming, I tell you. Oh, what a burden, Lord, to be the father of a grown up daughter. I'll cut my throat, I will indeed. We cursed him, we abused him, we drove him out. And it's all you. He's saying you are the reason for all of this, that we cursed him, abused him, and then we threw him out. And Natalia is saying, no, it was you. Now they're again playing a blame game. Of who was the reason for them to curse him and abuse them. Chubukov says, I tell you it's not my fault. And by then Lomov appears at the door. Now you talk to him yourself. And Chubukov leaves. So Lomov enters exhausted. My heart's palpitating awfully. My foot's gone to sleep. There's something that keeps pulling in my side. So he's not doing too well. Natalia says, forgive us, Ivan Vasilovich. We were all a little heated. I remember now, Oxford Meadows really are yours. So finally, because he had given a proposal of marriage, she is accepting that it is his. Lamov says, my heart's beating awfully. My meadows, my eyebrows are both twitching. Natalia says, the meadows are yours. Yes, yours. Do sit down. And Natalia says, we were wrong. Lamov says, I did it on principle. Not that I wanted to fight, but it was just the principle that it was really mine and I wanted to prove it. My land is worth little to me, but the principle, and then he kept on talking and Natalia said, yes, the principle. Just go on. Now let's talk of something else. So she decided to change the topic so that they don't fight again. So Lamov says, the more so as I have evidence, my aunt's grandmother gave the land to your father's grandfather's present. And again, he's talking the same thing. So Natalia says, yes, let that pass. Then she's talking to herself and saying, I wish I knew how to get him started to talk about the marriage or to change the topic. Are you going to start shooting soon? So she asked him a different topic so that they can change that topic. So Lomov says, I'm thinking of having a go at the black cock, honored Natalia Stepanovna after the harvest. Oh, have you heard? Just think what a misfortune I've had. My dog, guess who you know has gone lame. So he's saying, I've had a very bad misfortune. My dog called Guess, he has gone lame means now he is limping or he is hobbling. Natalia says, what a pity. Why? So Lomov says, I don't know. Must have got his leg twisted or bitten by some other dog. And he sighs. My very best dog, to say nothing of the expense. I gave Mironov 125 rubles for him. He's saying he's a very best dog. And he says it is also worth the price because I gave him 125 rubles. Natalia says, it was too much, Ivan Vasilovich. So Lomov says, I think it was very cheap. He's a first-rate dog, so I think the price is worth it. Natalia says, Papa gave 85 rubles for his squeezer, and squeezer is heaps better than Guess. So their dogs, Natalia's dog's name is Squeezer, and she's saying, my father only paid 85 rubles, and Squeezer is better than Guess, which is his dog. So Lomov says, Squeezer is better than Guess. Oh, what an idea, and he laughs. Squeezer is better than Guess. So now we started argument on a totally different topic. Natalia says, of course, he's better, of course. Squeezer is young. He may develop a bit, but on points and pedigree, he's better than anything that ever Volchanetsky has got. So he's saying that the pedigree is the breed, is better than anything that they have ever got. The mouse says, excuse me, Natalia Stepanovna, but you forgot that he is overshot, and an overshot always means the dog is a bad hunter. So overshot means where the upper jaw is longer than the lower jaw. So he's saying that he can never be a good hunter. Natalia says, overshot, easy. The first time that I'm hearing that. So Lamov says, I assure you that his lower jaw is shorter than the upper. Natalia says, have you measured? So Lamov says, yes, he's all right at following, of course. But if you want to get hold of anything, so the dog is good at following. But he can't grab things because of his mouth. So Natalia says, in the first place, a squeaker is a thoroughbred animal and the son of harness and chisels. Well, there's no getting at the pedigree of your dog at all. So I can talk about, she's saying I can talk about the breed of my dog because it is a pure breed. But your dog, we don't know even about what breed it is. She accuses Lomov's dog of being old and ugly as a worn out cab horse. Lomov says he is old, but I wouldn't take 5 squeezers for him. Why? How can you? Guess is a dog and for squeezer, well, it's too funny to argue. Anybody you like has a dog as good as squeezer, you may find them under every bush almost. 25 rubles would be a handsome price to pay for him. So he's saying that Natalia's dog isn't a very good dog and even 25 rubles is too much. Natalia says, there's some demon of contradiction in you today, Ivan Vasilovich. First, you pretend that the meadows are yours. Now that guess is better than squeezer. I don't like people who don't say what they mean. Because you know perfectly well that squeezer is 100 times better than your silly guess. What do you want to say? He isn't? So again, they are having a fight about whose dog is better. Lamov says, I see, Natalia Stepanovna, that you consider me either blind or a fool. You must realize that squeezer is overshot. Natalia says, no, it's not true. Lamov says, he is. Natalia says, it's not true. Lamov says, why shout, madam? So Natalia says, why talk rot? Why are you talking such things? It's awful. It's time your guess was shot. Shot means dead, put to death. And you compare him with squeezer? So Lamov says, excuse me, I cannot continue with this discussion. My heart is palpitating. Again, because of their discussion, again his heart has started palpitating. Natalia says, I've noticed that those hunters argue most who knows least. You see, you are arguing so much because you know least. Lamov says, madam, please be silent. My heart is going to pieces. And he shouts and says, shut up. Natalia says, I shan't shut up until you acknowledge that squeezer is 100 times better than guess. Lamont says 100 times worse. Be hanged to your squeezer. His head, eye, shoulder. Natalia says there's no need to hang your silly guess. He's half dead already. So they are having a very silly fight for such silly matters. Lamov is weeping and saying, shut up, my heart's bursting. So Natalia says, I shan't shut up. And that is when the father comes again, Chubukov. Chubukov says, what's the matter now? Natalia says, Papa, tell us truly, which is the better dog, our squeezer or his guest? Lamov says, Stepan Stepanovich, I implore you to tell me just one thing. Is your squeezer overshot or not? Yes or no? Chubukov says, and suppose he is, what does it matter? He's the best dog in the district for all that and so on. So you think maybe he is, but he is the best dog. Lamont says, but isn't my guess better? Really now? Lamont saying, what about my dog? Isn't he better? So Chubukov says, don't excite yourself, my precious one. Allow me. Your guest certainly has his good points. So he's saying, yes, your dog is a pure breed, firm on his feet. He has well sprung ribs and all that. But my dear man, if you want to know the truth, the dog has two defects. So what are the two defects that Chubukov is saying? He's old and he's short in the muzzle. Muzzle means nose or snout. Lamov says, excuse me, my heart. Let's take the facts. You will remember that on the Marusinski hunt, my guest ran neck to neck with the Count's dog, while your squeezer was left a whole worst behind. So, worst is a measurement that was used in Russia. So, worst is 1.1 kilometers behind. So, he's saying your dog was a big distance of 1.1 kilometers behind my dog. Chubukov says he got left behind because the Count's whipper in hit him with a whip. So he's giving the reason, saying our dog actually got left behind because the whipper whipped him, the dog, with the whip. So Lamo was saying yes, and with good reason he got whipped because the dogs are running after a fox when Squeezer goes and starts worrying a sheep. So he's saying that the dogs are supposed to scare away the fox, but your dog was going and hurting a sheep. So Chubukov says, it's not true, my dear fellow. I'm very liable to lose my temper. So there is a good probability that I am going to lose my temper again. Just because of that, let's stop arguing. You started because everybody is always jealous of everybody else's dog. Yes, we are all like that. You too, sir, aren't blameless. You no sooner began with this, that, and others, and all that. I remember everything. So Lamau says, I remember too. So Chubukov teases him and says, I remember too. What do you remember? So Lamau says, my heart, my foot's gone to sleep. I can't. Again, he's feeling very unwell. So Natalia says, teasing, my heart, what sort of a hunter you are? You ought to go and lie on the kitchen oven and catch black beetles, not go after foxes. My heart, so you keep saying, my heart, my heart. Go and catch beetles in an oven. But how will you go hunting if you keep talking about how fragile your heart is? Fragile is weak, or that can easily be broken. Chubukov says, yes, really. What sort of a hunter are you anyway? You ought to sit at home with your palpitations and not go tracking animals. You could go hunting, but you only go to argue with people and interfere with their dogs and so on. So you only argue and interfere with their dogs. Let's change the subject in case I lose my temper. You're not a hunter at all anyway. So Chubukov is saying, you're not a hunter. Now let's change the topic before I get angry again. Lamau says, and you? Are you a hunter? You only go hunting to get in with the count and to intrigue. So he is saying that you call yourself a hunter because you go with the count and you go so that you can be a source of fascination or to arouse interest in yourself. Oh, my heart, you are an intriguer. Chubok says, what? I am an intriguer, and he shouts, shut up. Lomov says, intriguer. Chubukov says, boy, pup. Lomov says, old rat, Jesuit. Chubukov says, shut up or I'll shoot you like a partridge. Partridge is a bird. You fool. Lomov says, everybody knows that. Oh, my heart, your late wife used to beat you. My feet, my temples, sparks, I fall, I fall. So he's finally going to faint. Chubukov says, and you are under the slipper of your housekeeper. So Chubukov is saying that your housekeeper, who is the house help, She hits you with a slipper. Lamau says, there. My heart's burst, my shoulders come off. Where is my shoulder? I die. And he falls into an armchair. A doctor. Chubukov says, boy, milk sop. Fool, I'm sick. And he drinks water. Sick. Natalia says, what sort of a hunter are you? You can't even sit on a horse. Then she tells her father, Papa, what's the matter with him? Papa, look, Papa. And she screams, Ivan Vasilievich, he's dead. So finally, they realize that he has fallen on the chair, unconscious. Chubukov says, I'm sick. I can't breathe. Air. Natalia says, he's dead. Pulls Lomov's sleeve. Ivan Vasilievich, what have you done to me? He's dead. A doctor, a doctor. So now they are panicking. Chubukov says, oh, what is it? What's the matter? Natalia says, he's dead. And she's wailing and crying. Chubukov says, who's dead? Then he looks at Lomov. So he is, my word. Water. A doctor. And then he lifts a tumbler to Lomov's mouth and says, drink this. No, he doesn't drink. It means he's dead and all that. I'm the most unhappy of men. Why don't I put a bullet into my brain? Why haven't I cut my throat yet? What am I waiting for? Give me a knife. Give me a pistol. So he's being all melodramatic and saying, I better kill myself. What has happened? Finally, Lomov is moving a little bit. And he seems to be getting consciousness. Drink some water. That's right. Lomov says, I see stars. Mist, where am I? So Chibukov says, hurry up and get married. And well, to the devil with you. She's willing. So he finally says, now, because you're coming back into consciousness, get married to her. She's willing. She's ready to marry you and all that. I give you my blessing and so on. Only leave me in peace. He's saying that. Please, the only thing I need is peace of mind. Just leave me in peace and marry her already. So Lamov, he doesn't know where he is. He's delirious. He's getting up and saying, her, what, to whom? Chubukov says, she's willing. Well, kiss and be damned to you. Natalia's crying, he's alive. Yes, I am willing. Chubukov says, kiss each other. Lamov, kiss whom, what? He doesn't even understand. And they kiss. Very nice too. Excuse me. What is it all about? Oh, now I understand. My heart, stars, I'm happy. Natalia Stepanovna, my foot's gone to sleep. Natalia says, I'm happy too. Chubukov says, what a weight off my shoulders. Oof. He's feeling relief because they are getting married. Natalia says, but still, you will admit now that guess is worse than squeezer. Lamau says, better. Natalia says, worse. Chubukov says, well, that's a way to start your family bliss. Have some champagne. That is the best way to start your family, which is to argue. Now have some champagne. Lamau says, he is better. Natalia says, worse. Chubukov says, champagne. And that is the end of the scene. So if you see in this entire scene, they are squabbling over very trivial matters about who owns the land, which is not even that important, and whose dog is better. Now let's look at the theme of the story. The first one is, it says that we should not argue over petty issues, what they were doing throughout the story. The second is, it is imperative that we avoid unnecessary disputes between people because it affects the health of people. Like how Lamau had palpitations and even Chubukov was feeling unwell. The third is, wealthy families seek rich alliance to increase their wealth. So they were having matrimonial ties just to increase the wealth of individual families. The last is that anger, resentment, and arguments ruin a relationship. So these are the various themes that are pretty evident in this story. Okay, so this was a really long play. I hope you enjoyed listening to this video. Please share it among your friends, and if you haven't subscribed, do it right now. Thank you and God bless.